Hello, everyone, and welcome back to New Comic Book Late Night Live. I'm Captain Logan, and look, it's the Curious Lo.
I'm here. I'm alive, and Cap and I are experiencing awful lag, so I have no idea how long that space was. So hopefully you guys can understand.
That's awful.
Yeah. Hopefully
but it
you guys
told me
can
about
understand.
What the lag was like.
But we're still talking to each other, so this will be great. It's going to be a really flawless night tonight.
We're going to do our level best. I want to apologize for folks for the technical difficulties we've been having on the live shows. I have done everything I can trying to figure out what the culprit is, and I just don't know. I can't tell if it's my end. I can't tell if it's other people's ends. When Eric and I did the Tick Show last week, I think it was last week, we didn't really have big problems, but still, the video was a little blurry and stuff. So I don't know. I'm trying to ask people to tune in for live shows that they can't watch, and to do too much content live, so when you can't see it. So we'll figure something out. Anyway, right now we're still live, and we're gonna do our best to work through any technical problems we might have and count down our top 3 favorite books from last week for you. Lo, can we now officially talk about the reason we've been so intermittent lately?
Yes, I've posted it on Twitter, so anybody that follows me there knows that I am pregnant. So I've been dealing with crazy bad morning sickness, and I'm sorry if you are somebody who gets grossed out easily, but that's been my issue. So, yeah, sorry about that, but also I'm really not that sorry because I'm excited to be having a kid. So I'm joining that side of Geekvolution that has children, which is currently only Cap.
That's right. Yeah, dads and moms represent 2 of the 7 now. So yeah. Anyway, congratulations to you.
Nice.
Well, I know you guys have been trying for a while and you're wanting kids. So I'm glad that is fine. And best wishes. So that's why we've been kind of in and out lately. And why I've done a show or 2 on my own. But hopefully, over the next few weeks, Lo will continue to be well enough to be able to be with us. But obviously, Lo, we understand when you can't be here. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to count down our top 3 favorite books from last week and then tell you about the rest of the stuff we read and some stuff we are excited about for next week. Lo, I had another tremendously huge group of books last week. It was ridiculous how many books I bought last week. It's probably my record for the year, honestly.
Oh, wow. I only had 6. So this is one of my smaller weeks. It feels like the longer and longer the year goes on, I have a disproportionately large amount of books 2 weeks of the month, and then a disproportionately tiny amount of books the other 2 weeks.
And I don't know, a lot of it for me is just DC got good again. Yeah. And so I'm just buying so much stuff over there right now, on top of pretty much the same amount of stuff I was buying other places. Marvel's gotten a little thinner, but it's not the same flip from during the 52 days when I had a lot of Marvel and very little DC. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. I'll go ahead and start this week, Lo. My number 3 from this last week, somewhat surprisingly given the sheer number of books I read, is Back to the Future 13, which doesn't make the list real often. I think it has at least once. And I have enjoyed this. Some of these have been really fun, and some of these have been, honestly, a little bit lame. This tackles an issue that I'm glad we're finally dealing with in Back to the Future. Really, my only problem with it is not understanding why Marty's not asking some of the questions he's asking before this during the big time travel romp we had a while back. You'd think this would have cropped up already, but what we're dealing with here is Marty having kind of an existential crisis about line changed when he was in the 50s. And so when he came back, obviously things were altered and his parents aren't the way they were before. And they're a lot cooler and his life is kind of better. He kind of comes back at the end of that movie to a better life. But the problem is, he didn't experience things exactly the same way. And so his question is, am I still my parents' son? Or is their son technically the one that goes back in time that I watched leave at the end of the movie when the Lone Pine Mall became the Twin Pines Mall became the Lone Pine Mall. And there's a really heartfelt, kind of touching conversation he has with his father about the kind of, again, existential nature of all of this that idea. And it's really nice, kind of one and done sort of issues. So if that sounds really interesting to you, just based on your like for that movie, but you're not really caring about comics that have mostly just been kind of filling in the blanks, except for that one time travel arc we've had so far, pick up 13. It's easy to read by itself if you know those movies. Lo, what is your number 3 for this week?
My number 3 is a year of Marvel's, what's this one called? The Unbeatable #1. Because again, like I always point out, for whatever reason, these are all one-shots. Like always, it's split between 2 stories that take place in 2 different months. This issue's months were August and September. We had a fun Nick Fury story that took place in Japan, which was very action-oriented. But knowing me, I was much more interested in the team-up of Rocket Raccoon and Tippy the Squirrel, who is a character in the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. So that was fantastic to have 2, well, one of my favorite comic book characters, Rocket Raccoon, and the sidekick of another of my favorite comic book characters. So very fun. It involved talking trees and Rocket having to translate for Tippy because, of course, nobody understands Squirrel and Squirrel Girl wasn't there. So Rocket kept having to translate. And again, it's me. So the adorable story is the one I latched onto. Very fun. I'm still really liking these. They tend to be fairly light stories, definitely one-offs. I wouldn't say that they're necessarily introductions to the characters, because a lot of them are fun because you know the character well enough that you can kind of like think it's funny how they conduct their everyday lives. But these were still very fun. I'm still really liking A Year of Marvels. I think there's 1 or 2 issues left. The next one comes out in December. So excited for the next one as well. What was your number 2, Cap?
Yeah, Rodents Unite. My number 2 this week is Star Trek Boldly Go #1, another IDW book. This one is, I haven't been doing nearly enough giving credit on this show. Written by Mike Johnson with art by Tony Shestina. Surprised to see Johnson back here. Excuse me, goodness. I thought this was. I thought we might go to a totally new creative team with the new monthly, and we're not doing that. And the other thing I'm really surprised by is I ended up with the subscription variant, which I like this cover. I like this cover a lot, but the cover that is this really ultra stylized, super cartoony thing, kind of jagged art that I keep talking about. I thought the whole book was going to look like that. It doesn't. It's Mike Johnson. It looks like the previous book pretty much. Art is just fine. It's kind of your standard Star Trek fare. Like I said, I thought this was going to be a really ultra stylistic book. I was kind of looking forward to seeing what that would be like. It's not that. But having said that, this feels a lot like, at least with the first issue, with the setup comic, that it's what the last book should have been if we were going to abandon the doing TOS episodes in the Abrams verse the way we did. And what I like about it is it feels like like the beginning of a big ongoing involved story, as opposed to a bunch of 2 or 3 issue arcs that don't really ever have a whole great deal to do with each other. They built on each other a little bit, but I really want a Star Trek book that's like Ninja Turtles and like Ghostbusters, that just goes on for a long time and continues some long form storytelling. What we have here, which is alluded to with the subscription variant, is Kirk is now captaining a different ship, the Endeavor, and we have a lot of our characters have left the ship, and after it gets destroyed in spoiler alert in Star Trek Beyond, and they're each, several of them anyway, on different ships. You've got Spock and Uhura right now living on New Vulcan. You get to see what New Vulcan looks like. That's pretty cool. You get to see Uhura in kind of traditional female Vulcan garb like you have with Amanda Grayson in TOS, and that's kind of cool. And she's embracing that culture and learning about it and soaking that in. And I think that's a really cool thing for her to do, because of course she's all about languages and different cultures, and so she's really into that. so the so it's kind of fun to see each of these characters in new places and exploring, going off to do various missions, explore various parts of the galaxy. Sulu is, I want to say, first officer on a ship serving with Captain Terrell. And it's really cool to see a young Captain Terrell. He is the captain of the Reliant in Wrath of Khan, if you remember that guy. And we get to see him, and hopefully he gets to do some really cool stuff. I am mostly recommending this for the cliffhanger, which is a thing I thought we would broach at some point, and we finally are. I'm not going to reveal what it is, but there's a race that we're about to be dealing with TOS, and it might be neat to see the Abrams-verse deal with it, or it might be really awful. We'll see. But it was set up really well. I called it early because there's they do kind of the obvious reference about 5 or 6 pages in that makes you go, okay, it must be that species. But I still think it's set up pretty well, and I'm kind of excited to move forward with it and to get to talk about what that is after we get past this issue. I should mention, of course, that we're doing our show late, so new books actually come out tomorrow. But since we're not on to the new week yet, I still want to approach this like we always do and not, tell you about endings and tell you too much about stuff. All right, Lo, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is Spider-Gwen number 13, which was a kind of a one-shot. I mean, it still definitely had to do with things that have happened before, but it definitely feels like it's kind of its own little story within the overarching plot. It takes place at kind of a haunted carnival. It deals with basically the band. What are they called? The Mary Janes.
Mary Janes, yeah.
Getting lost in this kind of haunted carnival. It has maybe something to do with Mysterio, although I kind of can't tell if that was just an animatronic or not. And they started hallucinating people that were dead, and Gwen certainly had to deal with some ghosts from her past, although they were zombies, but whatever. So yeah, that's how it's sort of tied in with stuff that's been happening. So it wasn't a one-shot per se, but it did feel like it was a very self-contained plot. I thought it was very fun. I continue to really dig the art style in this book, as always. And I like getting to see the Mary Janes because they kind of dropped off the face of the planet before the Spider-Women crossover. Blech. And it was nice to kind of see them back. So still fun, still love this book. Spider-Gwen's one of my faves. Hashtag, I say that all the time. What was your number 2?
I want you to start making that such an obligatory phrase where you're just like, hashtag,
I
like where you put the hashtag. I like that you didn't put the hashtag before the thing you said. You were like, you're the thing I would have put the hashtag in front of it if I thought about it. Hashtag,
Because I don't say it on purpose. I just really like stuff, so everything is one of my favorites. And then I realize after I've said the phrase that is something I say all the time. So
you know what? And I keep catching myself doing that too, where I'm like, that's my favorite, and then I'm like, everything apparently that I like is my favorite. I also read this and liked it a lot. It didn't make my list, mostly because I was a little let down by the ending. I didn't like it as well by the time I got to the end. I won't talk about why exactly, but it's cool to finally get the band back together, literally, because we haven't dealt with enough of those, them often enough lately. Find yourself reading this book, wondering what exactly the Mary Janes sound like. I'd love to have that band somewhere. It'd be cool if there was a band called the Mary Janes that started writing music based on this book and took some of the lyrics, because every now and then we get lyrics, and I think we have a fairly good sense of the sort of band that they are, right? Like that's a punk band.
Yeah, for sure.
There's no way around it. I want to know what they sound like.
I loved that Thriller was definitely playing in the background. At one point, there's just lyrics from Thriller kind of popping in every couple panels. So in the background, Thriller was playing. That made me happy.
So on to number 1 already. Yes.
Yes.
My number 1. This
I'll just keep saying it. Yes.
Hashtag, My number one this week is Dark Knight 3, The Master Race, number 6. Finally, this has come out. This has been really late. And let me preface this by saying that this is one of those things that once it's over, I might not appreciate as much as I am right now. I might look back on this after I have the whole thing together and be like, oh my God, I put that number one on one of my weeks. But you have to keep in mind, of course, that this is a thing that's not over yet, and it's just what I have right now. And also, because it's late, I will freely admit how much I do not remember about stuff that has come before in this book. But anyway, when last we left, Batman and Superman were suiting up to fight Quar and his band of Kryptonians that are trying to submit themselves as gods and force humanity to under their thumb and to worship them. And they have seeded the sky with kryptonite and the clouds, and the Kryptonians are being affected. And at the end of that issue, we get to see Superman and Batman in their battle armor, and Superman has this wonderfully absurd, just hysterical battle armor. I think it's hysterical. I think it fits great with the Dark Knight aesthetic, but boy, it just cracks me up. Just look at him, Lo. Look at how bulky he is. Super crazy, bulky, robot suit Superman. It's awesome. And he looks kind of like Steel, except even bulkier and a lot more rock-like. So, this is a big fight between Superman and Batman and the Kryptonians, but we get to see regular people on the street fighting them as well, because now they're being affected by kryptonite, and so they're just like us lowly mortals. And there's a lot of stuff in this about kind of relative godhood and how, at the end of the day, the Kryptonians are, of course, just people who happen to have powers and be able to do things that we can't do, and so they're not any more or less human than the rest of us, but godhood is all about perception and all about being able to make people think that you are what you're saying you are. There's another one that I'm recommending based on the cliffhanger. I can't talk about it, but it's mortifying and or not mortifying, not like disturbing, but just, oh wow, I didn't expect that to happen. And I hope they really follow through with it. I'll say it's a big deal and a thing, maybe this is giving too much away, but a thing that makes me think, oh, we're doing one last book in the Dark Knight Returns world, at least for Batman, so that to definitively end this so that we can't do any more of them. And it really feels like that's what we're doing here. And I'm instantly liking this book even more than I was before, if that's what we're doing. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say about it for right now. What is your number one, Lo?
I've been getting that weekly, but I haven't read it because I want to read it all at once. So I'm happy to hear. I'm happy to hear that that it's getting better, because I heard a lot of people kind of not liking it that much. So it's good to hear that maybe as a whole it'll work a little bit better. So we'll have to see. There's one more issue, right?
2 or 3.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was 8. Somebody last week claimed it was 9. I haven't looked into it again since then. So
we're near-ish the end.
Yeah, but I don't know what. Okay, so I heard that apparently Eric told me this. I don't know where he got this, but apparently, according to Eric anyway, this one was late because Jim Lee was supposed to do the art for, and I haven't been reading these. I might eventually. I just haven't gotten around to it. But they have these little comics in the middle. And Jim Lee was supposed to draw this one and then bowed out in the 11th hour. He bailed. And Frank Miller draws that one. And so they had to wait for Frank Miller. And apparently that's why this was late. But if there are other reasons, Lo, since there's 2 or 3 more issues left, it's possible it's a whole other year before we finally finish this book. But hopefully not. Anyway, what is your number one this time?
All right, my number one. And again, this was a very small week, but it's also not hard for this to make my top 3 basically every single time. Squirrel Girl number 13. I love Doreen. She's so great. This was another really great issue. It had to do with them all being stuck in Canada with Ant-Man, and having to save the world. There's a bit of a cliffhanger at the end. We are definitely not at the end of this arc, but it seems like it is the start of something that will probably take another issue or two to wrap up. So I don't want to really talk about what's happening, but like I said, hijinks in Canada. It involves Ant-Man and Squirrel Girl and her mom. lots of fun things. This still continues to be really fun. Ryan North, I adore his writing style. I don't know, his sense of humor and mine match up perfectly. So it just, every single issue is a slam dunk for me. Even when the plot is just like, I don't even care, like issue to issue, because that sometimes does happen, because this is a very silly book. I'm laughing every other page. I get all of his jokes. I love all of his non sequitur stuff that he does in the little captions. Very fun. If you like silly, quirky things like I do, I just can't help but keep recommending Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, because I love it. There you go. Go out and buy it. What are you doing with your life if you aren't already? Amen.
Bobby Singer wants to know if you picked it. I didn't know this was a thing. If you picked up the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl beats up the Marvel Universe.
I did not. I saw it come out, but I didn't get it. I have way too many books that I'm reading right now. I need to drop them.
Hello, it's Squirrel Girl.
I know. I need to drop
it a mini?
some.
Is it a one shot?
I have a baby coming. I can't buy all of these comics.
I know. Yeah. Yes, you can, Lo. Yes, you can. No, I'm just kidding. Lo, is it a mini or is it a one shot? Do you know?
I don't remember. I just remember seeing the title and like being interested in it, but I didn't really look into it because I wasn't in the position to be buying any more comics than I already am.
Okay. All right. Well, that you're gonna have to get your hands on that, obviously.
I know.
All right. Let's go ahead and talk about other books we read this week. I will blow through mine as fast as I can. The first is Batman number 9. This is the beginning of our new story arc. Very kind of healthy wait and see kind of attitude about this arc. I liked this okay. I think it's a decent setup, but there's some kind of eyebrow raising things. I don't know what we're doing with this yet. Batman is pulling together a team of supervillains with Amanda Waller's help, and I think he's kind of a little bit desperate in dealing with Psycho Pirate and trying to help out Gotham Girl. And so he's recruiting this small team of supervillains to help him. A lot of Batman doing that lately. First we got Clayface, now we got a whole little team of them. And the big cliffhanger at the end of this is a character who I was surprised to see in the way we see that character, and didn't realize that about the Bane stuff yet, but I don't know. We'll see. So just not sure yet what he's doing with that. But it was interesting. Power Rangers Pink number 4. Lo, we are back out of, I think, the rut of it just feels like a normal Power Rangers episode with this one. I don't know if you've read it, but we've got a full-blown team of Power Rangers Pink Rangers now, which is neat. And we've got this kind of fun, uneasy alliance with the Pink Ranger and Goldar that I'm liking a lot. It's funny because that was set up last issue, and then on the first page, it seems like they immediately go their separate ways, like right away, and then they end up still having to work together, so that's good. I thought we were just immediately eliminating that idea altogether, and that's not what we're doing. But I really like her as the leader of a whole team. I like that it being a Power Rangers thing, it's still about teamwork, so it's not just Pink Ranger by herself, it's her leading a whole group. And bringing in a couple of new Rangers, people who one of whom really kind of needs to redeem himself, so it's cool to see him as a Ranger. And also just female Red Ranger is something I've never seen before, and kind of interesting to see as not the leader of a team. Ghostbusters International number 10. The end of this says to be concluded, so I don't know if this is only 11 issues or if this is just a long story arc and we're going to keep going. I think it's probably the former rather than the latter, but there's been this big this kind of to get his hands on this book that will kind of give him unlimited power, and it has everything to do with manipulating the Ghostbusters. And it's cool to see kind of a bad guy pulling the strings in a Ghostbusters book, because usually it's kind of just these short one and done or like 3 or 4 issue stories where we kind of just pull out our proton packs and take care of these guys. And we've actually got a guy with a master plan, and it doesn't seem too convoluted. It kind of makes sense. And I like the uncertainty of whether or not Egon is dead or just in another dimension or something. X-Men 92, number 8, we've got Apocalypse, and he turns out to be the big bad that's been behind everything with Lollapalooza. We're still doing the big rock concert thing. And there's a subplot that is continuing with the Brood, where the X-Men have disappeared, and they're trying to help out some Brood mutants. And they have this kind of uneasy, another kind of uneasy alliance with some aliens that they're usually in, good spirits with, but are not right now. Who is that? What am I talking about right now? It's the I can't think of their names right now because it's 90s X-Men comics. It's that alien group with Lalandra that they're always dealing with. Anyway, so many characters in this, it's ridiculous. It's like 3 or 4 X teams all messing around at the same time, and 90s X-Men comics were like that, but I can't keep it all straight. I was just about to drop Green Lanterns because it's not dealing with the Red Lanterns as much. And then I read number 9, and now I'm not really sure, because I didn't love this, but I like the idea that's beginning this new arc. We're dealing with with a phantom ring, which is a ring that anybody can put on. It doesn't have to choose you, and gives you Green Lantern powers. And the story is pretty interesting. You've got this guy who is obsessed with becoming a Green Lantern and tries to prove himself worthy to the rings. And there's this really cool scene where a ring shows up, and he thinks that he has finally proven himself worthy, and then the ring decides, oh wait, no, I made a mistake, and just flies away. And it makes him crazy, basically. And then it looks like he's going to be the first guy to get the Phantom Ring. And it's an interesting idea. I'm not a big Green Lantern guy, but I might keep reading based on that. I just wish I liked the 2 protagonists more than I do. Death of X number 2. I'm not in love with this. This is kind of just a setup for the mutants versus what the X-Men versus Inhumans event that we're about to do, and I don't even know if I'm going to read that, honestly, based on this. I cannot get excited about Inhumans. I think Medusa in this is pretty interesting, and in having to deal with the politics of the situation where the Terrigen Mist is starting, and it's really unpredictable. It sometimes kills them, it sometimes does nothing to them. And she's trying to be diplomatic and to make the mutants, to convince the mutants for sure that they're not doing this on purpose. But they can't convince Cyclops, and he runs off half-cocked and tells all the mutants that they've got to go to war with the Inhumans over this, and is like insisting that they must be doing it on purpose. And he seems a little out of character, even for the Cyclops that we've had ever since Avengers versus X-Men, when he kind of became a crazy revolutionary guy and murdered Professor X. But anyway, so I don't know. I think it's another kind of flimsy excuse so far for a big war, and I kind of think that they could solve that peacefully. But whatever. I haven't read anything with Cyclops lately, so maybe that makes more sense than I'm letting on. X-Files number 7, this has been, this arc is way cooler than I thought it was. This is the best issue of this series so far, I think. You have a possessed Mulder, and the thing that's possessing him is super scary and kind of interesting. And I won't go into it, but I think this is the tone of this and the sophistication of storytelling is really what the revival ought to have been. I like it a lot, and of course, this is kind of filling in blanks between the revival and the last season of that show. I also like kind of the talk about mortality and just everybody getting old. There's some talk about how it's not the '90s anymore and how they have to handle things differently, and that resonated. I like that a lot. Trinity number 2 sees the Trinity, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, seeming to be back in time dealing with Jonathan Kent and a really young Clark Kent. And I like, by the way, that young Clark Kent looks so much like Superman's kid, John. And then it turns out that things are not exactly what they seem. And I don't know what I think about what this turns out to be and where we're going from here. But while I was reading it, I really liked it. I like all of the stuff with Superman talking to Jonathan and not being able to tell him who he is, and Jonathan thinking that they're aliens that have come to take his son away, and all of that stuff. I guess we'll see where we're going with what that all ends up turning out to be, but I'll talk about that next time, I'm sure. Powerpuff Girls number 4 is hilarious, and I still really like the blend of the current show's tone with the old tone. This is the Powerpuff Girls do not know how to ride bicycles, and it turns out that they end up losing their powers, and the only way to save the day is to learn how to ride bicycles. It's great, and it's a him story, and I usually like him. And finally, Superman number 9. This is the end of the Dinosaur Island story with just absolutely glorious artwork by Doug Mahnke. Tomasi is kind of tearing it up for Tomasi here, although Patrick Gleason came up with the story, so the dialogue's good, but the story's better. I won't go into it because we're running out of time, and Lo's got to talk about her books, but it's really super fun, and everybody should read it. It's a 2-part story. It's kind of a throwback and a tribute to Darwin Cook. I think that's kind of the reason that this came out, and it reads very Cookish. But anyway, Lo, what else did you read?
Well, you were going to throw it to me saying that we had no time left, but I had such a small week, and I only wanted to talk about one book.
Oh, okay. All right. That's fine.
So if you wanted to talk more, you could. The only other one I wanted to talk about was Power Rangers Pink, which you already talked a lot about. But I will say that I did not enjoy the team up as much with Goldar and Kimberly, partly because, and now maybe this is just me expecting too much from Goldar, but I got very frustrated with how, I don't know that realistic is the right word, but how more realistic than the average Power Ranger story this book has been, at least in the way that people react. And Goldar is still like cartoonishly like evil, that I was just kind of like mad at him for the first 5-6 pages of this, as he's like, but I don't want to work with you, and Kimberly's like, oh my gosh, will you just work with me? And I was like, oh my gosh, will you just work with her? This is wasting space. I still kind of like this. I don't know if you guys can hear that airplane, but it's very loud. But yeah, I still like this book, but I was a little frustrated by that. But that's just me. Obviously, you liked it, and I was a little bit more frustrated by it. I like the idea of it being 3 of the original members and then like 2 people that she's met on her journey to give her team. It's cool to like mix it up, I guess. And I am still newish to Power Rangers, so I don't know if that happens very often, but it seems like that's kind of a new thing to sort of mix old Rangers with just like brand new people that I assume will not be Rangers going forward. They're just kind of like temporary Rangers for this story. So that was pretty cool as well. Still enjoying it. This just wasn't my favorite issue of Power Rangers Pink. And that's the only thing that I wanted to talk about.
Well, I imagine we will never, ever again see those characters.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're doing something, because my read on that is different from yours. I think we're doing something with the villains in Power Rangers in general with the comics. And I think you wouldn't have as much of a problem with that if you were reading the regular book, the main book. I think what we're doing is we're because we're trying to have our cake and eat it too, and tell more sophisticated stories with more character dimension while still being Power Rangers and fit into sort of the continuity of that show, because we're not reimagining it. What I think we're doing is we're taking the villains and we're having them kind of justify their actions by saying we are evil and we are acting according to our natures, and they are in denial about the fact that they are actually three-dimensional characters that could change if they wanted to. And we get a glimpse of that in this, where Goldar does a thing that makes her think maybe he kind of has a heart, and he's like, no, I don't, and he flies off. And he really could be a better, kinder, gentler person if he wanted to, but all of the rhetoric is, you are evil, you are this particular way, you were born that way, you have to be like that. And if you go look at the annual, with the 8 pages I cannot stop talking about, with Lord Zed and Goldar and his brother, it's really clear that there's more to that guy than meets the eye. And
well, I read the annual, and I liked that plot as well. And so it bothered me that he was just back to this, like, super one-dimensional. I get where you're coming from, but it bothered me.
Yeah, it's just, I don't think he is one-dimensional. I think he's trying to be, and I think that's both great and hilarious. I think it's kind of interesting. I want to do something with it. I think he needs to be the big bad of an arc. I also think we could take him to a place in Power Rangers Pink, but I kind of don't think so. I think, honestly, his part in this is probably mostly done. Probably. But we'll see. Anyway, Lo, did you have a favorite cover this week?
I guess... I don't know. Nothing really jumped out at me. I guess just because I always like the coloring of the Spider-Gwen cover. Nothing else was very interesting. I mean, look at how boring this comparatively Squirrel Girl cover is. So I liked the Spider-Gwen one. I like the neons with the blacks. I think we talked about that a few weeks ago, about how I like that juxtaposition of color. So it works well for me. What about you?
I guess I'll go with Dark Knight 3 again. It's just a really good throwback cover with the Batman Robin thing, especially because she's not Robin now. She's a Batgirl, and I think that's really cool. And I like the counterintuitive color scheme with the green and the purple. I don't know why. I think it suits this material. Okay, so let's go on now to books that we are anticipating for this next week. And if anybody right now wants to write down anything you think that Lo or I might, or I say next week, tomorrow, books coming out tomorrow.
I already saw.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Connor. Yeah, Connor guessed Wonder Woman #9, which is on my poll.
Oh, is it? Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
But is it on your list of things that you're anticipating?
Yeah. It's on my top 3. Yeah.
He picked the thing I'm getting!
No, it's not my top 3.
Connor, send me a message. Make sure that I give you a digital code for any Marvel book. Did I talk about a single Marvel book? I guess you get Death of X, which I didn't like, or X-Men 92. You can also get something from last week because nobody gave us an answer last time. So anyway, Lo, my anticipated books for next week are, or I guess this week, tomorrow, Ninja Turtles Universe #3. That book's been just stellar, and I'm liking it almost as much, if not as much, as the main book. I like finally giving Baxter Stockman some more stuff to do. And it's a really great way to get some of those peripheral characters that we haven't seen in a while back in there, because it's just such a thick, complex world that they're building. Silver Surfer #7, because that's one of the best things ever, and every issue has surprised me in the current run. And finally, my #1, a new book coming out, Serenity, No Power in the Verse. I always like Serenity. Really like the last mini that we got, a year or two ago now. I forgot how long ago that was, but it was quite good, and I'm glad that we're getting another one. I like that we're only periodically putting out a Serenity thing and not trying to make it like another like season thing. I'd be weird to get Serenity season 2, especially since we had a movie that basically was a couple of seasons roped into one, so it would be more like season 3 or 4, but we wouldn't call it that. But anyway, so I like that we're getting them kind of as movies, as like in miniseries as opposed to lengthy seasons. Lo, what are yours?
My top 3. I only have 4 books on my poll next week, so it's like I said, it's like 2 really like thin weeks, and then like 2 just like bursting at the seams weeks. But that's what I want to read. I don't have anything else that I'm interested in. So my top 3 of the 4 that I'm getting. Number 3 is Lumberjanes, number 31. Number 2 is Wonder Woman, number 9. And number 1 is Poe Dameron, number 7. Love me some Poe.
Well, it's like, look, it's what I like, okay? Deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
you know this.
Rock on, Lo. It's totally cool. Yeah, it's like, it's week 23. You should know the drill by now. All right, we're going to do a little bit of open forum now for you folks for the next 50 minutes or so. We don't have a ton of viewers tonight. We're on a different night than normal, and I left up the live show from yesterday, which I probably shouldn't have done because it occurred to me that it gets in the feeds differently, probably. So anyway, that was smart. There's some folks here. People figured out that we're broadcasting tonight. So anyway, anything you guys want to talk about with comics, any books you want us to elaborate on, any superhero stuff, whatever you'd like us to discuss, we will go ahead and do so now. So go ahead and leave us some questions or discussion topics, if you will. Otherwise, we're just going to sit here and just about, about whatever. Lo,
about anything.
Lo, I like your shirt, and I think you look nice in plaid.
Thank you. I have quite a few plaid shirts like this. I bought like 4 of them at the same time. And
yeah, it suits you. I think you might have even worn some plaid when I was there with you. I forget, but
probably. I tend to wear plaid a lot. Yeah. With Geekvolution stuff, I tend to go more toward my my geeky t-shirts, just because it fits the theme of this channel. But yeah, I'm sickly and didn't feel like changing, so this is what you get.
I'm sickly. Once again, nobody worry. I'm not contagious.
Yeah.
And even if you were, it wouldn't matter. You're on the internet.
Think pregnancy is catching. I don't think it's going to spread to our predominantly male audience.
That's right. Yeah. But like, so, there's this 7 to 9% apparently female presence here on the channel, and you could accidentally get them pregnant.
Right through the camera. That's how it works.
Yeah, that's right. That would be really unfortunate. Hey, if you're a girl, don't watch Geekvolution. You don't even know. Like, you might love Superhero Rewind, but it's not the somehow or rather, it doesn't even matter if you're in a video, Lo. The channel now gets people pregnant.
There's a bit of a, I don't know if it's a joke or just a stereotype that if you work in Fantasyland, you will get pregnant. I think just because there's a lot of women that work in Fantasyland, and that's where I transferred to, and then I got pregnant. People are always like, funny. You'll fall in the water at Small World, and you'll get pregnant. That's what's going to happen. So I think it's funny. I haven't fallen in the water yet, though.
The percentage of pregnant people is immediately likely to rise if there's mostly women, and there are many of them.
I know.
Statistically, the likelihood...
Probably.
Versus whatever part of the park is mostly predominantly. Is there a part of the park that is predominantly men?
I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily, because even sections that I think of as like Adventureland, where it's all Jungle Cruise and Indiana Jones, it's still kind of 50-50. I just think a lot of men and boys that get put into Fantasyland transfer out quickly because they don't like working all the fairy tale rides. I think it's less that only women transfer there or only women get put there, and more just that boys don't last there because they don't like it.
Daniel Davis, were there any bad comics you read this week? Well, I talked about all the stuff I read, and I didn't read anything just heinous. I like I said, I didn't care for Death of X. I don't think it's bad. I don't like the way Marvel's doing events right now. I realize that's 4-issue miniseries, but it's setting up an event that I don't care about. It's just it's still too many superheroes fighting superheroes stories, and more we seem to be having to work really hard to contrive a situation to make that happen. I don't think people are chomping at the bit anymore, really, to see superheroes fight superheroes. I think if it happens, it needs to be a natural thing that feels like we're doing it because this is how these characters would react to a situation, and not because we got to fill the quota of good guys hitting good guys in the face. We should have an event that is nothing but supervillains fighting supervillains with no superheroes even there, just
like supervillain Civil War.
Yeah. Did you read anything you didn't like? Because you only talked about one thing, and I always go down all my books.
The only other ones that I read were Spider-Woman and Silk, which pretty much every time I read them, I say the same thing, that they're interesting, but they're just not my favorite. Like, I have, like, very neutral opinions about those books.
Yavier76, your Adam West Batman costume was the bomb in Phantom Cap. I don't know what Phantom means, but I did wear a 60s Batman costume earlier this evening when we did the live patron chat, and we broadcast that to everybody. So you want to see me in a 60s Batman suit, go watch a couple minutes of that. Mind the Gap, who could make Spawn relevant again? Honestly, I think if McFarlane actually let someone else do that book, or he, for some reason, decided to get rid of it, which he would not do. I think there are all kinds of people that could come in and work on that. I'm trying to think of people in particular that would really want to. I still want to see Morrison come back to Spawn. I mean, that's kind of, the best stuff. It was only 3 issues. The best stuff in Spawn early on, I think, and really just in the main series that was just a regular story arc was kind of the Morrison stuff, the Psychoplasm stuff. I think Gaiman could do some great Spawn. Really, anybody that likes to work in that kind of occult and celestial realm, I think would be great for that. You'd have to kind of ignore things in reboots, certainly, which McFarlane does all the time. So I mean, that's kind of par for the course. But yeah, I hate to say this, kind of think just about anybody that's not McFarlane could come in and do a better job. The way that book has been.
Because you just recently sold off like a huge chunk of your Spawn collection, right?
I did. Spawn and I broke up. We had a big fight. And I couldn't believe I did it either. Somebody made me an offer. I couldn't refuse, and I sold it.
Like all of it, or just a section?
No, it's gone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It hurts a little too.
Yeah.
It feels weird. Because it's, you're gonna laugh at me. And this is gonna make me sound nerdier than I want to, but after I sold it, the very next day, I've got this big comic project I need to do where I've got a lot of books that aren't filed, and I've got some things that aren't cataloged. I started working on that project just to remind myself about what else was in the collection, because for a second it was like cutting a foot off, and I was like, oh yeah, no, my collection's still pretty good. No reason to worry about it. That's how I felt for a second, because it was so weird to get rid of 400 comics all at once. And I mean, I worked really hard to build that collection, and mostly for Spawn Year, and also because it's a testament to that show that I spent 2 years of my life on. But part of the reason I did it, and I had been kicking around maybe eventually, but I wasn't gonna go on eBay or something. Somebody would have had to have come to me wanting it, which is what happened. But I was. Part of the reason I did it was because it keeps me from going back and reading it again, and it's not good for my brain, and I shouldn't. And I don't know that I would have been able to help myself. I think years down the road I would have been like, okay, I know, I made a whole show about it, but is it really that bad? And anyway, and also some of it too was I was buying the new books and not reading them, and I felt obligated just because I had it all, and it stops me from doing that. So anyway, it's weird. I no longer have a complete Angela collection. I have all of Marvel's Angela now. But yeah, it's weird. Manos is in the comments. Hi, Manos.
There's no questions. Everybody's just saying hi to Manos.
Yeah. And surprised that I know, I'm surprised.
Who do you guys think could replace Tim Miller for Deadpool 2?
Oh boy, I don't know. I don't have a good.
I'm not up on my director game.
Yeah, well, and what tends to happen is it ends up just being somebody I've never heard of, and then you look into their background, and you're like, either that makes sense or that doesn't make sense. Because usually I'll just go to somebody who's like really obvious and everybody knows. I don't immediately know.
Yeah. My mind just immediately goes to Matthew Vaughn just because I really like him and he does that sort of like over the top violence in most of his movies.
Channel just said the same thing. He would make a lot of sense. I don't know that he and Ryan Reynolds.
He's not the only guy that can do that. Yeah, like it's one of those things where he's just like, oh, he's like the big name that does that sort of movie. So there's probably a ton.
The fact that he and Ryan Reynolds couldn't agree on the actor for Cable makes me kind of think, and this is not fair, but it makes me kind of think that Ryan Reynolds is sort of directing those. Like, not really directing them, but
well, they're his baby. He spent a lot of time to get that movie made, so I honestly don't.
He has, and he has so much creative control over that it makes me think it matters, but it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, who ends up directing it? That guy was a first-time director, and he doesn't look it. And I kind of think, so I sort of think they'll go for probably a nobody.
Yeah.
Just so that Ryan Reynolds can, unless Ryan Reynolds directs it.
Yeah.
I guess that could happen. That's not likely, but it could. I don't know. There's a petition to get Tarantino direct. That's weird.
That would be such a tonal whiplash from movie to movie.
Whiplash.
I don't think he matches up with that at all.
Yeah.
And I love Tarantino, but no.
Again, what you need is not somebody to come in and take the reins. You need somebody to come in that can fit into a section.
Yeah.
Dope Channel, what would you guys think of a Tony Stark send-off film after Infinity War, functioning the way Logan will for the Wolverine character? In this scenario, Robert Downey Jr. would not reprise his role after this film. I think that is likely. Maybe not right after that. I don't know. He keeps kind of going back and forth about how long he wants to do it. But I think with both him and I think with both Iron Man and Captain America, eventually those actors are going to have to are going to have to say goodbye, and especially the Captain America, because he's not supposed to age, or at least age very, very quickly. So. Yeah, I've talked a lot speculating about whether or not I think they'll recast, or whether or not they'll just send those characters off or give them desk jobs or something. And I still think it's more likely to be the latter. I still really don't think they'll recast. There was talk early on from Feige that they probably would. I think that's liable to change. So yeah, I think a send-off film is likely, actually. I'm not seeing any other topics, Lo.
No, not really. Everybody's talking about
the Gap wants to know if I'm ever going to watch other Power Rangers like In Space or RPM. Well, I've seen In Space. Okay, maybe not all of it. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, no, I never sat all the way through Space. Yeah, I'll at some point try a couple of others that seem kind of neat. There might be some Power Ranger reviewing-ness that happens sometime down the road, but it'll be a while.
We have a question from DC Stranded. What comic character do you think deserves a good video game? For me, it's Superman. The best Superman games are called Lego Batman. Lol.
That's right. We've talked a lot about that on the channel. I think we did a whole podcast once about what a good Superman game would be. Yeah, I'd love to see that happen, just because of Superman's iconic status. And when you first think about it, it's like, well, that sounds like a no-brainer. And then you go, oh wait, but he's invulnerable. So how do you make it challenging? What do you do with that exactly? I think a really good story-driven Superman game could be made before a really good actioner. But beyond that, I'd like to see a Daredevil game that is not too Batman, which would maybe be difficult, but it'd be cool to try to figure out how how to make the blind thing work in a video game. I think I tend to go to more obscure things. Like I think a Moon Knight game could be really super cool, especially if you made it like really stylized and it was kind of black and white with occasional splashes of color. Stuff like that. I think the definitive Ninja Turtles game has yet to be made. There's a lot of stuff. The definitive modern Turtles game. Yeah, I liked what I saw of Dino Charge, but I haven't touched it since the first 5 or 6 episodes. Well, I think that's going to be it for us this evening. Oh, now I'm seeing more stuff. Will Vince ever be on the channel again? Yes.
Are we looking
regularly? But yes.
Are we looking forward to Doctor Strange anymore now that nearly all the reviews have been either positive or wildly enthusiastic?
No, I was expecting that. I had a lot of faith in that project. Yeah.
I was never like crazy excited for the movie, but I never expected it to be bad. I just for the movie that is probably going the most in the fantasy direction that any of these movies have, it's like the least excited I've been about a Marvel movie in a long time. I assume that I'll like it. I don't know why the trailers in general haven't really been gripping me. So we'll see. I'm sure I'll love the movie.
But they look confident. I mean, I think Marvel's not remotely worried about that. I think it's gonna be. I think it's likely to be really great. Game Station 3, Son of the Mask. Yes, Son of the Mask is coming soon. I am working diligently on this thing. It'll be done really soon. That's what I've been working all day on. Mind the gap. Why was Son of the Mask made? To milk a potential franchise that had its first movie 11 years prior, and they finally got around to making it, and then they failed because it didn't make its money back.
Manos wants to know what our thoughts on Ghost Rider and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. so far are.
I liked the first episode. I didn't watch past that. I thought Ghost Rider was really cool, but that show just in general still is not keeping my attention enough to keep watching it. Unfortunately, just the status quo of where S.H.I.E.L.D. is right now, and because part of what's weird about it, Lo, is like S.H.I.E.L.D. is suddenly public again, but the movies are ignoring it, and that makes it not feel relevant. And that doesn't mean that they're not necessarily telling good stories, but even that first episode, storytelling still felt kind of slow to me, and I don't really care about Daisy on the Run, and it just doesn't. I don't know. If I hear the Ghost Rider stuff it remains amazing, I may eventually go back and finally watch it. But I've got other shows, and admittedly worse shows to review right now. But I haven't been able to make it a priority.
I watched the first 2 episodes. Yeah, I watched the first 2 episodes and haven't caught up with it after that. I just haven't had. I don't know that time is the right word. Every time that I go to watch something on Hulu, there's always something else that I'd rather watch than the older Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episodes. So,
Game Station 3, are you going to mention the Nintendo Power Contest for Mask 2? He's talking about in the Son of the Mask review. Actually, yes, that is in there. And I'm going on record to saying that I'm not putting it in because you just mentioned. No, it's in there already. Yep. Okay, that's going to be it for us tonight, folks. Thanks a lot for watching. We sure appreciate it. We will see you again next Monday night, hopefully at 10 p.m. Central
But next
time.
Monday is Halloween. Are we going to do Monday?
Oh, no, we're not. What am I talking
about?
Okay. No. I don't have a real big week this week. I think we can afford to skip a week.
Okay.
If that's okay with you. So, yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, I've got a small week.
What I said, it's stricken from the record. Week after that, we'll be back Monday night, 10 p.m. Central Time. More comic reviews for you, counting down our top 3 for the week. Lo, thanks for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Yay, it was good to be here. Sorry that I keep making us miss shows and stuff.
No, that's okay. I appreciate you trying to do it.
I like being here, so I always try.
Folks, we will see you again soon in 2 weeks. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm the Curious Lo.
See you next time. Thanks for watching, folks.